All right, welcome to Smackdown Stew Report Live. I am Smackdown Stew, having some technical difficulties. I don't know if you can hear me. My headset seems to be working terribly. So let's just see if working terribly. So let's just see if you're working terribly. So let's just see if you're working terribly. So let's just see if you're working. Yeah, we'll see. It's. All right, so actually it is working pretty well. Smackdown Stew here, and this is the Smackdown Stew report. Sorry for the tardiness. I'm having technical difficulties with my wireless mouse and now my headset. We are live, and we are live. We're going to talk about the King of the Ring today, but before we do that, I just want to remind everyone to like the video and subscribe to the Smackdown Stew YouTube channel. Right here live on YouTube. We're gonna, So, and also, like the video and don't forget to subscribe. We have an email address. You can always send me an email, and on a future Smackdown Stew report, I could read the comments maybe. So it's Smackdown Stew channel at gmail.com. Stew is spelled with a W. Smackdown Stew channel at gmail.com. One word, lowercase, Smackdown Stew channel at gmail.com. We have the Facebook page, the Smackdown Stew YouTube channel Facebook page. You can comment as well. And we're going to have a great time today. I'm going to see if I could fix my microphone, because the microphone that I want to is not, I guess you can hear me pretty well. So we are going to talk about the King of the Ring, because it is June, of course, and you can't talk about the King of the Ring without talking about the Hell in the Cell match between Mick Foley and The Undertaker. And that's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Hell in the Cell matches in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, well, now WWE. We'll talk about that as well. Again, you can comment on the Facebook page. You can comment right here on the chat, and I'll get to your comments. You can send me an email, and I will put out a live schedule when I'll be going live, so we can get this interactive going. And let's get started. We're going to start with the King of the Ring. And the King of the Ring. So the King of the Ring started, and we'll go back to going back to the King gimmick in the World Wrestling Federation. And the first King of the Ring tournament, which led to the King gimmick, was held on July 8th, but the King of the Ring pay-per-view, that's what we're talking about, it is in June. The first actual King of the Ring tournament was held on July 8th, 1985 at the Sullivan Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, where the New England Patriots played. The inaugural tournament was won by the Rock Don Morocco, who defeated the Iron Sheik in the final. And it was a kind of closed circuit event. And then further King of the Ring tournaments were held from 1986 to 1989, and then in 1991. And the earlier tournaments were held as a special non-televised house show in an effort to boost the attendance at, of course, these events. The reward for winning the tournament was the title King of the Ring. And although 1986 winner Harley Race was the only one to carry this gimmick onto television during the early years of the tournament. Now, like I said, in 1986, Harley Race was the second King of the Ring winner. Harley Race parlayed his victory into an arrogant king wrestling gimmick. Now, so then and he featuring a real cape and a big crown, and the gimmick led to some notable feuds, of course, with the Junkyard Dog at WrestleMania 3, in which the Junkyard Dog crowned him with a chair. It was a match where the loser had to bow and kneel before his victor. Hulk Hogan also feuded with Harley Race, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and others. And after new winners had been crowned in the annual tournament. In 1998, Harley Race suffered an abdominal injury, and during his absence, Bobby the Brain Heenan, his manager, awarded the crown to Haku in July, rechristening him King Haku. And even though Randy Savage won the tournament by that point, and Ted DiBiase would also win the tournament during the storyline, Race eventually returned from his injury and briefly feuded with King Haku, but was unable to regain the crown at the 1989 Royal Rumble. King Haku, of course, lost the crown to Hacksaw Jim Duggan in May. And then Hacksaw lost it on August 30th, 1980 to the Macho Man Randy Savage, who rebranded himself the Macho King. And of course, Savage abandoned the King gimmick when he lost a career-ending match to the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 7. So then the WWE decided that in 1993 to make the King of the Ring an annual June pay-per-view. The inaugural King of the Ring pay-per-view took place on June 13th, 1993 in Dayton, Ohio, and the winner was Bret the Hitman Hart defeating Bam Bam Bigelow in the final round of the tournament. Hart went through Razor Ramon in the first round, Mr. Perfect in the second round, and Bam Bam Bigelow in the finals. And it was a pretty good pay-per-view. This is the last pay-per-view appearance of Hulk Hogan. Yes, the real American, the immortal Hulk Hogan. Was his last pay-per-view, losing and dropping the title to Yokozuna because of interference from a photographer. The camera flashed in Hogan's eyes, the camera burned in Hogan's eyes, and Yokozuna won the title. And that was the last pay-per-view event that Hulk Hogan, for years, that Hulk Hogan did in the World Wrestling Federation, now WWE. There have been a few notable kings in the World Wrestling Federation, now WWE. The second King of the Ring, The Rocket Owen Hart, Bret the Hitman Hart's little brother, won the King of the Ring in 93. And we'll take a look now at who the king were. So in 1993, Owen Hart defeated Razor Ramon in the finals to become the King of the Ring. In 1994, the big man Mabel heel defeated Savio Vega, the runner-up, in the finals in 1995. Now here, 1996, here's a little backstory of 1996. In 1996, Stone Cold Steve Austin actually won the King of the Ring, but he wasn't supposed to. You heard it here. He was not supposed to. The winner of the King of the Ring, the winner of the King of the Ring should have been Triple H. Triple H was supposed to be pushed to win the King of the Ring in 1996. Hunter Hearst Helms, they had the, English kind of gentleman, kind of blue blood character, and he was supposed to win it. However, because of the infamous Madison Square Garden breaking of kayfabe, the Clique, when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went to WCW, there was the main event, a steel cage match at Madison Square Garden, and that was the last event that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, or Razor Ramon and Diesel, would compete in. And they, at the end of the match, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall came out. They shared a hug and broke kayfabe, like we had mentioned in the first episode, that kayfabe, they let in that the bad guys and the good guys were friends. So somebody had to be punished for that. You couldn't punish Scott Hall and Kevin Nash because they went to WCW. So, and Shawn Michaels was the WWE champion at that point. And so that you couldn't punish him. So Triple H got the punishment, and his push was held until the next year. So Triple H was supposed to be the King of the Ring. It ended up being Stone Cold Steve Austin, but that was a blessing in disguise because that was the dawn of when Stone Cold Steve Austin uttered the phrase, Austin 316 says, I just whipped your ass. The Austin 316 catchphrase started at that King of the Ring of 1996. 1997, of course, Triple H defeated Mankind in the runner-up in the 1997 King of the Ring. Actually, and who did Stone Cold Steve Austin in 96? Who did he lose to? Jake the Snake Roberts. That's where the Austin 316 gimmick came to play, because Jake was religious. In 1998, Ken Shamrock defeated The Rock in the 1998 King of the Ring, and that is the match we're going to talk about in a few moments. In 1999, Billy Gunn defeated X-Pac, become King of the Ring. In 2000, the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle defeated Rikishi, Mr. Big Ass, in the 1999 King of the Ring. He defeated, In 2001, Kurt Angle got to the finals, but Edge was crowned king. And of course, the next night, Christian turned his back on his brother and crowned him with a chair. In 2008, there was in 2007, there wasn't a King of the Ring. In 2008, William Regal defeated CM Punk at the finals to be crowned King of the Ring. Sheamus defeated John Morrison in 2010 to become the King of the Ring. In 2015, because from 2010, there was no King of the Ring for 5 years, and there was no King of the Ring in 2009 either. In 2010, Sheamus defeated John Morrison to become King of the Ring. In 2015, Bad News Barrett, that's Wade Barrett, defeated Neville to become the King of the Ring. And this is not the pay-per-view, but these are just the kings. Baron Corbin became king in 2019, defeating Chad Gable. They made the tournaments on Raws and Smackdowns, and there was no more King of the Ring pay-per-view. Xavier Woods became king in 2021. There was no king in 2022 and 2023 because of COVID. And the last king was in 2024. Gunther defeated Randy Orton to become King of the Ring. So, yeah, and the King of the Ring is most notable, and I'm sure everybody knows, for the greatest Hell in a Cell match in the history of pro wrestling between Mankind and The Undertaker. These guys beat the living bejesus out of each other, and it was a great match. First of all, they started on the top of the cage. Mankind climbed to the top of the cage, daring Undertaker to climb on top. Of course, Undertaker followed him, and that spot that nobody expected, that spot that gave us, good God Almighty, it killed him. As God is my witness, he's broken in half. That spot was the brainchild of Terry Funk. Mick Foley, when I went to his live show, with the Becca Monster and Scotty Montana. We went to his one-man show and autograph signing, meet and greet. Couldn't meet a nicer man. Mick Foley is such a great guy. And he told a story that Terry Funk actually came up with that spot. They were talking in the back, and Terry Funk said, it'd be funny if he threw you off the cage. And Terry Funk was laughing about it. Like, he didn't think that Mick was serious. And Mick says, wait a minute. Went to The Undertaker and said, what if you threw me off the cell? So they went up on the cell. You know, the metal was bending because these guys were huge. So, of course, they were fighting on top. Undertaker's foot almost went in. Foley goes towards the edge. Undertaker grabs him and throws him off the cell, and he lands on the Spanish announce table. That was, that was not expected. And I believe the announcers didn't want to know these certain spots so they can react in real time. And my camera looks a little bit old school here. I think I'm going to have to take a look here. I'm going to change my camera because I don't know why. Yeah, this is the right camera. I don't know why it looks dark, but this is the right camera. Yeah, it shows. No, it's not. My technical difficulties here. Just one moment. All right. Anyway, it should be no, it's actually, no, that is actually the right camera. Okay. So this match, he threw him off the cell, and as Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross said, it looked like he was dead. He wasn't moving, and it was something you've never, ever, ever seen before. Of course, Terry Funk came running out, and all the paramedics went around him. All the producers in the back, the stagehands, they all came out, and they called Dr. Francois Pitsy, the doctor at the time, to look at him. And they lifted the cell up to get the stretcher, and they left the Undertaker on top of the cell. Undertaker was on the top of the cell waiting. And fun fact, Undertaker actually wrestled that match with a broken ankle. He actually had a fractured ankle. Nobody knew that. Now, so they're tending to Mick Foley, and they put him on the stretcher. They roll him down the aisle. The cage comes back. Undertaker goes down, and all of a sudden you see a commotion. You think Foley fell off the stretcher. Foley got up and said, "No, I'm coming back. This is not how it's going to end." Got up, climbed with a separated shoulder or dislocated shoulder, climbed the cell again, and started fighting the Undertaker again. More of those ties and metal were buckling. And this is a spot that might not have been expected. Mick Foley, because the spot he was supposed to be thrown, but how the top of the cell broke, Mankind couldn't get the flat back because he couldn't jump because the things were buckling under him. So he couldn't get the flat back, and he fell right down, and the chair landed on top of him. So when people saw him smiling, he wasn't really smiling in that turnbuckle. He was trying to get the tooth, because there was a tooth in his nose. What he stuck him out his nose was a tooth from the chair hitting him. And again, all the agents, the road agents and everybody in the back came out, the paramedics, and Terry Funk. And Terry Funk was smart. He went to the Undertaker and said, "Chokeslam me," to save time. And he did. Mankind, Mick Foley, got up. Mick Foley got up. And everybody's like, how in the world is he standing? I see we have viewers here. Please, you can comment on the page. Let me know who you are so that I can send a shout out to you. I know one of them is probably the Becca Monster. So you can comment a hi and a hey to let me know who the viewers are here. And so he got up and they finished the match. He went through thumbtacks. He went outside of the cell, tried to lift up the stairs, but had to drop it because of his shoulder. And it was Steve Rockamaniac, my brother, Steve Rockamaniac. Wow. I haven't heard from you in a while. Yeah, Smackdown Stu is back. Yeah, so we're talking about King of the Ring. I mean, that was one of the greatest Hell in a Cell matches. You know, it, even the stories behind it were hilarious because that was the first Hell in a Cell match was pretty brutal between Shawn Michaels and between Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker, and was brutal, and that was the beginning of Kane, but not as brutal as this Hell in a Cell match. It was something that was unbelievable. And okay, so I see that the Becca Monster is watching, and a very special hello to Jana, who's also watching as well. Got a birthday coming up very, very soon. So hi, Jana. So yeah, it was a great pay-per-view and a great and the Hell in a Cell was amazing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And another side note about that pay-per-view that nobody knew: Pat Patterson was at that pay-per-view, and it was there that he was told that his husband, and if you don't know, spoiler alert, Pat Patterson was homosexual. If you don't know by now, you'd be living under a rock. His partner passed away from a massive heart attack, and he got the news while he was at the King of the Ring in Pittsburgh. So it was a heck of a pay-per-view. Now, we're going to also, because the Great American Bash was also a pay-per-view that started in June, and that was known. They had the War Games at the beginning of the on the Great American Bash. Then they moved it to Fall Brawl, and of course, the man behind the War Games was Dusty Rhodes. He's the one who created with the two cages, and of course, he competed in a lot of them. There was one where he competed against the Four Horsemen, and it was just and the Great American Bash was a great pay-per-view. There was Ric Flair versus Lex Luger for the title. Now, also the Great American Bash was known for the pay-per-view that it was confirmed that Bash at the Beach, the Outsiders, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would, and a mystery partner would face three of the WCW wrestlers. It turned out to be Sting, Lex Luger, and Ric Flair, Sting, Lex Luger, and the Macho Man Randy Savage. That was the pay-per-view that it was all decided, in the pay-per-view where Kevin Nash and Scott Hall was asked, are they still working for WWF? Because everybody thought, because the internet wasn't big at that point, everybody thought that it was WWF invading WCW, and the WCW got served, cease and desist by the WWE, because it clearly came off as Razor Ramon and Diesel. So they had to come out and publicly and say, no, we're not with them. And another fun fact, I like giving fun facts. And I saw this in a documentary. It's true. When the WWF, now WWE, decided to bring back the Razor Ramon and Diesel gimmick, the fake Razor and the fake Diesel, when they were promoting it, that Razor Ramon and Diesel are returning to the World Wrestling Federation, and they're coming back, they didn't say it was Scott Hall or Kevin Nash. They just said Razor Ramon and Diesel because they owned the rights to the gimmick. When WCW saw them promoting it, they questioned Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, because they thought, in their minds, maybe it's a ploy that they're going to, they were just infiltrating WCW and going to bring back the secrets to Vince. And what did they do? They offered Scott Hall and Kevin Nash more money. they they offered him more money, even though they denied it, even though both of them said, no, it's not us. They were so convinced and so afraid that they were double agents that they paid them more money, and it turned out they were played for the fool, because the Razor Ramon they brought out was not Scott Hall, and the Diesel that they brought out was not Kevin Nash. It was actually Glenn Jacobs, who was Kane. It's actually Kane that was the fake Razor Ramon. So it was crazy how that, how they tried to get each other back and forth, but that was actually a true story. So yeah, the Great American Bash is a great pay-per-view. Once WWF bought WCW, the Great American Bash was brought back, and then eventually it was part of NXT, and then the War Games also ended up being part of NXT until the WWE decided to bring it back decided to bring it back. They decided to bring it back with NXT, and decided to bring it back at the Survivor Series, and made it Survivor Series War Games, which didn't make sense, which is what they should have done. And but I mean, when you look at WCW, some of the Great American Bashes were great, especially back in the Jim Crockett days. But so, and now we're going to look at the this week in professional wrestling history. The Macho Man Randy Savage actually passed away yesterday's date, years ago. Savage died of a heart attack. He had a car accident because he had a heart attack, and that was devastating, because the Macho Man Randy Savage, one of the greatest wrestlers, characters of all time. He made a great opponent for Hogan. He just had so much energy. He was great. His matches were fantastic. Case in point, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was, the match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat at WrestleMania 3 was great. It actually showed up the Hulk Hogan and Andre match. And Macho Man can wrestle anybody, from Yokozuna to Crush to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to Hulk Hogan, to the Boss Man, to Akeem, to the Honky Tonk Man. One of the greatest in-the-ring talents of all time. Technical, high flyer. He was one of the greats. And, he was one of the greats. And we do miss him. We're hoping he would be around for the induction of the, Hall of Fame. But he was not. So I'll just say, ooh, yeah, dig it. So I want to know, and I guess we have some viewers now. You could give me comments. I also wanted to know the first live event you ever went to, and I'm going to share mine. And this is a cool story, because I live in Montreal. At the time, I lived in a suburb called Côte-des-Neiges. And on my street, the late, great Edward Carpentier, who was at the time an announcer on the RDS for WWE French, on RDS with Guy Blondin, Les Étoiles de Lutte, Stars of Wrestling. And he lived on my street, so we'd see him walking the dogs. And then my uncle owned a supermarket in TMR, in the Lucerne Shopping Center, and I would go every Sunday and push carriages when I was a kid and help him until my grandfather picked me up. And who walks in one day but Edward Carpentier? So I was in the front, and I walked up to him. I was a kid. I had to be about maybe 9 years old, maybe 8, maybe 9. And I talked to him, and I said, and I talked in French. I said, I watched your wrestling events, on RDS and whatever. And, we had a conversation, and then my uncle happened to be coming down. So I introduced him. And then about a month later, a few weeks later, my uncle calls me and said, your friend Edward Carpentier just came into the store and he got you wrestling tickets. The first event, I'll never forget it. The main event was the Macho Man Randy Savage and Dino Bravo, the hometown Dino Bravo. And it was a great. Andre the Giant wrestled Jake the Snake Roberts, and man, in person was Andre the Giant huge. And this event was at the Old Forum. I can't remember the date, but I always remember that show. I can't remember the other matches, but it sticks out in my mind. The Macho Man Randy Savage versus Dino Bravo in the main event with Frenchie Martin in his corner. And, of course, the Andre the Giant and Jake the Snake Roberts. So it was great. We're going to cut this this SmackDown Stu report a little bit short. We're going to do it in half an hour as I had technical difficulties. But just wanted to see how it's going. And so keep tuned to the SmackDown Stu Facebook page. And we're going to do more interactive stuff. Of course, I am new to this, so I'm going to do more interactive stuff. I'm going to probably try and do live shows where I react to some old school pay-per-views. We'll do a watch along one of these days, with a pay-per-view. And more than likely, we're going to start off with a favorite of mine, the WrestleMania 3. And I will be reacting and doing commentary for that. Might just we'll go live, but you can always watch my commentary after. So stay tuned. More than likely, we'll do that on a weekend. So stay tuned for more content on the SmackDown Stu YouTube channel. And send me an email, SmackDownStuChannel@gmail.com, all lowercase, SmackDownStuChannel@gmail.com. And the Facebook page, SmackDown Stu YouTube channel. Check the Facebook page. You can comment. You can send me an email. Don't forget to like the page and subscribe. And we'll have more content coming up. So this is SmackDown Stu saying ciao for now.